Good morning. Okay, I will cover the California alternate assessments. As you are aware, we continue to fine-tune and develop the California alternate assessments, also known as the CAAs, with feedback from our California educators. Yeah. Today, I will highlight some of the key improvements and ongoing developments for the alternate assessments in English language arts, mathematics, and science. The California alternate assessments are intended, as you know, to be administered only to those students with the most significant cognitive disabilities whose IEPs or individualized education program indicates the use of an alternate assessment. We have some exciting updates for the English language arts and math tests. For this year, we have removed the educator survey that followed the conclusion of each alternate assessment. Are you happy about that? I hope so. Practice tests for the alternate assessments are also being refreshed, as are the item banks for the English language arts and math alternates. This has been an ongoing effort, as you may know as well. So updates to the item banks for the math and the ELA began in May of 2017 to create guidelines for language complexity with the expertise and input of California educators. The items used for the 2017-18 administration were developed with these new guidelines. And these item refresh efforts will continue into the 2019-20 administration. So here is an example of an ELA question. So while the text may be small for the images here, you can see that there is a significant amount of reading required in the original item on the left. And then on the right of the screen is this item with reduced language complexity. And here's an example of a math problem where the language complexity has been reduced. In the original item on the left, there was a significant amount of language processing required to set up the problem, as well as the question the students need to answer. On the example on the right, the graph is still there, but the format is simplified. The answer is it still has two parts, but they are displayed in a cleaner, easier way to follow. Here are a few key dates to keep in mind for both the California alternate assessment for ELA and math. We anticipate the results. For the ELA and math, alternates will be reported to you, the LEAs, in October, soon. The test window for this administration year will begin in January and will end in July. And each LEA will set its own testing window based on its instructional calendar. You have set up your windows already, right? So remember to do that if you haven't. Please note also that the new practice tests will be available in January as well. And now for an update on the development of the California alternate assessment for science. The CAA for Science is a unique assessment that allows test examiners flexibility as to when to administer the embedded performance tasks. The examiners can administer the task immediately following instruction rather than waiting for spring to assess the students. That's what's different and unique. The Year 2 pilot test was successfully administered to over 16,000 students this past spring. Remember that the CAA for Science consists of 3 embedded performance tasks, and participation is calculated on completion of all 3 of these performance tasks. This test is administered to all eligible students in grades 5, 8, and once in high school, specifically in grade 10, 11, or 12. So the good news, The CAA for Science testing window has been expanded to maximize flexibility for your test examiners and for the unique needs of this student population. And then we know that in the previous years, we have asked a lot of you and your test examiners, and we want you to know that we are grateful and thankful for your efforts and feedback. In the changes that we have made to the field test administration of the California Alternate Assessment for Science this year, we hope that you will see we have heard you. As for the guiding principles for developing this assessment, it was developed to provide immediate information or feedback to inform instruction to both students and educators. And if needed, an opportunity for additional instruction may be available. Support and promote the implementation of the California Next Generation Science Standards for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities, and to allow students to be assessed shortly after instruction, as I mentioned. This offers a developmentally appropriate opportunity for students to be assessed using alternate assessments derived from our California Next Generation Standards. And now I want to provide some perspective on the development of this science assessment. As you may be aware, remember the State Board of Education adopted the California Next Generation Science Standards in September of 2013, and since then we have been very busy. As you know, and you can see in this timeline, in 2016, the State Board of Education adopted the California Alternate Assessment for Science high-level test design. And in 2017 and 18, wrapping up with this year, the California Alternate Assessment for Science completed its first 2 years of pilot testing. We believed it was so important to pilot for 2 years to get this test rolling. And this year, the science will be our census field test, and it will be available to be administered in January of 2019. Next year, for the 2019-20 school year, that's when the first operational test will be available beginning in September through the LEA's last testing window or last instructional day. And that's what I meant by expanded testing window earlier. The State Board of Education also approved the California Alternate Assessment for Science blueprint, reporting structure, and general achievement level descriptors in January of this year, 2018. The blueprint explains how the test is designed, and it will be helpful if we first go over the background of the blueprint and where we started. The science core content connectors, or science connectors, were collaboratively developed by California educators, our test developer, ETS, and EdCount. The science connectors were derived from the California Next Generation Science Standards performance expectations. They further define what students should know and be able to do in terms of the focal knowledge, skills, and abilities, and essential understandings that define the foundational key concept or idea of the performance expectation. The science connectors provide learning goals aligned appropriately with the needs of the students with this population of the most significant cognitive disabilities. And they serve as the basis for the California Alternate Assessment for Science development. So in looking at the details of the blueprint, we can see that the CAA for Science field test consists of 3 performance tasks, 1 for each science domain: life sciences, physical sciences, and earth and space sciences. Students will receive 3 performance tasks for a total of 30 questions. Each performance task will assess 2 science connectors and consists of 10 questions. This means that students will be assessed on 6 science connectors each year. It's important now to plan the administration of the performance tasks near the time of instruction. So the field tests and operational tests will follow this blueprint. This diagram shows the progression through one science connector within a performance task in the assessment. So each science connector assessed will have 5 questions, 2 low complexity questions, 2 medium complexity questions, 1 high complexity question. The first performance task begins with an orienting activity. The first question serves as a student response check. That is the point at which the test examiner observes if the student is engaging and it is able to continue the test. If the student is not engaged, the test examiner is able to stop the performance task at that point. You guys still with me? So quiet. Okay, next I will describe what to expect for the California Alternate Assessment for Science reporting. We will use the preliminary indicators for reporting results for the 2017-18 pilot test year 2. And for the 2018-19, this year, which is the field test administration. These preliminary indicators include a % of items answered correctly and an indicator category. They offer only a general indication of students' content knowledge. So these preliminary indicators should not be used in conjunction, or should only be used in conjunction with other information when evaluating a student's overall achievement, and they are not precise enough to stand on their own. So they will not be reported on the 2017-18 or 2018-19 student score reports. So once operational, the reporting structure will consist of 1 overall scale score for science and 3 achievement levels. These results will be provided to students, parents, and educators. So all 3 performance tasks must be attempted for the students to be considered as having participated, and again, just a reminder. Then in fall of 2020, students will receive their student score report with their CAA for Science reports, results reported as a scale score with an achievement level. Now let's look forward to the Census Field Test Administration for this test. The field test, again, will be available in exactly on January 8th, 2019 through the last day of your instructional calendar or July 15, whichever comes first. The field test will be administered online and students or test examiners will enter the answers directly into the test delivery system, similar to how we do the California alternate assessments for ELA and math. As mentioned earlier, the CAA for Science test has an expanded testing window. Therefore, testing can occur through the last day of instruction in most cases. So be on the lookout for a document called the California Alternate Assessment for Science Administration and Planning Guide that will clearly identify the performance expectations and science connectors being assessed annually through the 3 performance tasks. The purpose of the guide is to help educators determine the best time to administer the CAA for Science based on when they have received instruction. A performance task will expire 45 calendar days after logging a student into the test delivery system, so remember, keep that in mind. Students must attempt all 3 tasks in order to receive that preliminary indicator. Here, I'm going to pause here for a quick video to show you, and I will walk you through that video. We'll look at a sample of a CAA for Science grade 8 item on the training test. This item is associated with the middle school physical science matter and its interactions. The orienting activity for this item includes a video that can be used, or the test examiner may individualize the activity into a hands-on activity if needed for the student. The science connector for physical science, matter and its interactions, is as follows. Using data provided through observation, identify evidence that proves a chemical reaction has taken place. For example, change in color, gas created, heat or light is given or taken in. The focal knowledge, skills, and abilities for physical science, matter and its interactions is as follows. Ability to identify evidence that proves a chemical reaction has taken place. Okay? The operational assessment performance tasks will be available in September 2019, as I mentioned earlier. The assessment for the following year now, the assessment will have 4 performance tasks, the 3 operational one and 1 field test. Not for this year, the following year. I'm just giving you a heads up. The CAA for Science Administration and Planning Guide will be available earlier in the year, in September, to allow for teacher planning and instruction. There are important available resources for the California Alternate for Science Assessment. There are assessment fact sheets, understanding the CAAs for parents, training performance tasks with a scoring guide, and then there's a test examiner training certification that'll be available, I believe, in November. In closing, I want to remind you that we need your help, and we want you to get involved in helping us develop this assessment. So we have provided a QR code here for you. When you scan this QR code, it will take you to the Content Reviewer application website, where you can enter an application to become a reviewer for item writing, item review, data review, when we do achievement level descriptors reviews, and standard setting in summer of 2020 is very important. We want you and your educators that you support to help us. And this is the contact information for both the English Language Arts and Math and Science offices. Please go onto the CDE website to get the latest updates for these assessments. And don't forget to sign up for our listserv to receive the latest information through the assessment spotlight. Thank you.